Hello children, today we will be seeing the second video on chapter 7, conservation of plants and animals. You remember the first video? In that first video we studied about deforestation, its causes and consequences. Remember, there we studied more about conservation of plants. In this video you will be studying a small topic on conservation of plants and the remaining we will deal with conservation of animals. So we will start. Okay. Reforestation. Have you heard about reforestation? It's a process of replanting trees. The trees can be cleared in an area. You studied about deforestation and you know due to deforestation the forest cover of an area or the trees in an area is being destroyed, it's being removed. The process of replanting those trees, the process of bringing back those trees, okay, and protecting our nature, this is what is called as reforestation. Now this reforestation can happen either naturally or intentionally. If nature itself is doing it, you call it as natural reforestation. And if it is done by human beings like this, okay, they are going and planting trees, then you call it as intentional reforestation. Okay, now in order to protect our forests, government has set certain rules and policies. One such act is the Forest Conservation Act. In this Forest Conservation Act, our forest is getting maximum protection under this act. Okay, our forest areas are under government protection. Okay, now this Forest Conservation Act mainly aims at two things. Now, what are the two things? The first one is it aims at the preservation and conservation of forest. Our forest has to be preserved, it has to be protected. Okay, that is a major aim of this Forest Conservation Act. And what is the second aim? You know, lots of people depend upon forest. Okay, for so many things. For example, tribal people. You might have seen, you might have heard about tribal people. Some of you might have seen tribal people at least in some films or some videos or something, isn't it? These people, they are depending upon forest for their daily needs. Now, there are so many other people other than these tribal people, so many other people depend upon forest for so many other things. Okay, so there are lots of people who depend on forest. Okay, so when forest is given protection, actually their needs should also be considered. The needs of normal people, okay, should also be considered. So, the second aim of Forest Conservation Act is to meet the basic needs of people who are directly or indirectly depending on our forest. So, understood, these are the two aims of our Forest Act. See, it was enacted in the year 1927. Is this clear? Okay. Next topic is recycling paper. Okay, now remember we studied about deforestation. One of the major cause of deforestation is this paper manufacture. For manufacturing paper, we are destroying a huge area of our forest. Just see an estimate of see somewhere around 17 full grown trees are required to prepare 1 ton of paper. So just think how many trees will be cut off in order to produce large amount of paper. Okay, so what should we do? We have to save paper in order to save our trees. And how can we save paper? Just use this 3R theory. What is the 3R theory? Reduce, reuse and recycle. Okay, so by doing these three processes, we can save paper. And when you save paper, you are unknowingly doing certain things. What are those things which are done by you? See, these are the three things which you do by saving paper. What is number one? You save trees by saving paper because somewhere around 17 full grown trees are required for preparing 1 ton of paper. So, when you are saving paper, you are indirectly or directly saving your trees. Okay, then number 2, you save energy and water required for paper manufacture. This paper manufacture is not a very easy process. Okay, it's lots of chemicals, lots of energy, lot of water, everything is required for the process of paper manufacture. And actually by saving paper, you are saving all these, the amount of chemical used in paper manufacture, the amount of water used in paper manufacture, the amount of energy input for this paper manufacture, everything is reduced by saving a paper. So number 2, you are saving energy and water for paper manufacture, and number 3, you are reducing the amount of harmful chemicals in paper making. So these are the 3 things which we are doing by saving paper. So children, reforestation and recycling of paper, these 2 are topics which come under plant conservation. So with this, plant conservation is somewhat over. Now we will start with the next topic, conservation of both plants and animals, conservation of forest along with animals. Okay, in the other topic we did not deal more about animals. Now in this topic, along with the plants, animal protection also comes. We will start. Okay, so conservation of forest and wildlife. In order to protect our forest and wildlife, as we said earlier, government has so many rules and policies. Okay, and accordingly, our forest areas are classified into 3 regions. Okay, what are the 3 regions? The 3 regions are Biosphere Reserves, Wildlife Sanctuaries and National Parks. So, the whole forest protected areas are classified into Biosphere Reserves, Wildlife Sanctuaries and National Parks. Now, in order to give more protection to these 3 areas, our government is doing something there. What is being done there? The processes like plantation, cultivation. 1 minute. The processes like plantation, cultivation, hunting, etc. is prohibited in these protected areas. So, our plants and animals are given maximum protection. Okay, because they are our biological wealth. Okay, now we will see more about the protected areas, Biosphere Reserve, Wildlife Sanctuaries and National Parks. Now, a Biosphere Reserve is an area where you protect the whole biodiversity. Okay, then wildlife sanctuaries are regions where you give protection only for wildlife, whereas in National Park, you give protection for the whole ecosystem, that is plants, animals, all the natural things found there, everything is being protected. Okay, so this is the major difference between these 3. Now by seeing these 3, you might have a doubt, somewhat this Biosphere Reserve and National Park, somewhat it is similar, isn't it? What may be the difference between these 2? In both, the biodiversity, ecosystem, everything, both plants, animals, both are given more importance, both are protected in these areas. So what is the major difference between these 2? A Biosphere Reserve covers a big area, whereas National Park, when compared to a Biosphere Reserve, is very small. Sometimes one Biosphere Reserve will be having lots of National Park inside it. Okay, so the major difference is in their size itself. So is it okay? So today we will study more about Biosphere Reserve. The other 2 we will study in the next video. Okay, so Biosphere Reserve. Now, this Biosphere Reserves are areas where the whole biodiversity of an area is protected. What do you mean by biodiversity? Diverse means variety. So, the variety of living organisms in an area. The variety of living organisms in an area is called as biodiversity. Okay, so the whole biodiversity of an area along with the traditional life of tribals is protected in a Biosphere Reserve. What do you mean by biodiversity? What do you mean by variety of living organisms? If you take a forest, the forest will be having lots of plants. Different variety of plants, small ones, big ones, herbs, shrubs, creepers, climbers, etc. You will be having different types of animals. You will be having a variety of microorganisms. Okay, so then you will be like this, lots and lots of life forms will be there. This is what is called as biodiversity. Along with the biodiversity, the traditional life of tribals is also protected in a biosphere reserve. Okay, now the biosphere reserve, it is a very large area as I told you. It may have several other protected areas within it. A typical example is a Pachmari Biosphere Reserve. This Pachmari Biosphere Reserve is having one national park and 2 wildlife sanctuaries within it. So just think how big this Pachmari Biosphere Reserve is. Understood? Yes. Now, in our biosphere reserves, as we told, there is a rich biodiversity there. Lots of plants and animals are present there. You call the plants of a biosphere reserve, or whatever may be the area, you can call, the technical term for plant is flora and that for animal is fauna. Is this clear? So you call plants as the flora of an area and animals as the fauna of an area. Okay? Yes. Next, these biosphere reserves, why we are actually protecting this biosphere reserves? Because most of our biosphere reserves will be having lots of organisms inside it, both plants and animals, and most of these organisms, okay, they will be found exclusively there only. You cannot find them anywhere else. That means such species are endemic. See this term? Endemic. What do you mean by an endemic species? Those species which are found exclusively in a particular area and you cannot see them anywhere else. Okay, so such areas, require more protection and such organisms you call them as endemic species. Hope endemic species is clear to you. The species which is found only in a particular area, not anywhere else. So, our biosphere reserves will be having lots of endemic flora and fauna inside it. Okay, just see this. These are 2 endemic flora. Flora means what? Flora means the plants in an area. Okay, and what do you mean by endemic? Endemic means the plants which are found only in that particular area. Exclusively they are found in that biosphere reserve. Okay, so they are found only in that particular area. Such plants you call them as endemic species. 2 endemic species of Pachmari Biosphere Reserve. This is sal tree and this is wild mango. Next, 2 endemic fauna. What do you mean by fauna? Fauna means the animals. Okay, and you know the term endemic. What is endemic? Isn't it? They are found only in that area. So, endemic fauna. 2 endemic fauna of Pachmari Biosphere Reserve. Bison and Indian giant squirrel. Factors affecting the natural habitat of endemic species. Now, the first one, what do you mean by this term habitat? Habitat means place of living, where an organism lives. That is called as its habitat. Okay, now this endemic species as you know, these species live only in a particular area. They cannot be seen anywhere else. And the place where this endemic species live, you call this as the habitat of that particular species. Okay, the habitat of this endemic species can be altered or it can be disturbed due to 3 factors. Now, what are the 3 factors? Number 1, destruction of habitat. Okay, the place where an endemic organism is living, that particular place is destroyed due to some natural calamities or some man-made causes. Okay, that can destroy this endemic species. That will cause problem to our endemic species. Okay, the second one is increasing population. When the population is increasing, the population inside the forest and outside the forest, population of both plants and animals, if it is increasing, what will happen? Definitely the endemic species will be facing some threat. Okay, for a small example, okay, the population inside this biosphere reserve is increasing. A population of animals, okay, is increasing inside this biosphere reserve. So what happens? It will this when for example the population of a herbivore is increasing. Herbivore means a plant eating animal, and we are having an endemic flora or an endemic plant in our biosphere reserve. So what will happen? This particular animal, it is a herbivore, it will come and eat this endemic plant. Okay, as a result, what happens? The number of plants will go on reducing. This animal number is increasing. Okay, population increase is happening in this animal. So what is happening? This animal is coming and eating our endemic plant. As a result, the existence of our endemic plant is right now under threat. This animal, the overpopulation has caused a direct effect on our endemic species. Like this is a small example. Okay. So the population inside and outside the forest, if it is increasing, definitely the endemic species are under threat. And the third point is introduction of a new species. New species means a new organism. It can be either a plant or an animal which is coming from outside. That is, for example, the place where this endemic species is living, as we told, it is called as the habitat of this endemic species. Okay, a new organism is coming from some other habitat into the habitat of this endemic species. Okay, then also the balance of that habitat will be disturbed because of this new organism, and this will directly affect the existence of our endemic species. So, is this clear? Okay. So, I think you are okay with this video, with the second video in which we saw about the conservation of forest and wildlife. Okay, so the forest is protected into three major areas: biosphere reserves, wildlife sanctuaries and national park. In this video, you saw in detail about our biosphere reserve. And inside this biosphere reserve, there are certain points where you have to highlight and study. One point is endemic species, the second point is biodiversity, then you have studied what is a habitat. Like this, so many points are there to highlight and study them properly. Okay, the remaining wildlife sanctuary and national park we will see in the next video. Okay children, have a safe day. Okay.